It's 8:13. Let's get him on board. He is the man that knows all about Ipswich's history. He tells us things that we don't even know about, and he gets the metal detector. A bloke down the coast has somehow had a metal detector the other day and found an ancient Roman coin that was worth about $2,000. Let's talk to Harry, the H. Peacock from HistoryOutThere.com. Good on you, Harry. You there, mate?
I certainly am here.
Do you know about the bloke with the coin?
Yes, and I'm very jealous. That was like an 1880s Queen Victoria gold sovereign, which is pretty rare in Queensland.
Where did he find it?
Of course, the main gold rush was down south.
Where did he find that?
Oh, look, he's not going to tell because he's going to be looking for some more.
Wasn't it a beach?
Oh, look, he will not say. Well, it could have been, but it was under a tree. It was under tree roots, that kind of stuff.
Have you found
saying where that tree is?
Have you found anything like that yourself?
Oh, look, Danny, I go for the personal history. No, I haven't.
Now,
I'm looking for it.
You're going to talk about, because it's grand final weekend with the kick and giggle of the AFL and the rugby league. Tell me, you've got some grand final controversies.
I certainly have, Danny, and I know your mind immediately goes back to the Ipswich rugby league team of 1926.
Yes.
When you're talking about controversies.
Yes, tell us about it.
Yeah, that year, Ipswich was led by a couple of Australian kangaroo greats. As you probably know, there was Jimmy Craig and Norm Potter. Okay. Now, Craig had been recruited from Balmain and went on to represent Queensland 23 times and played 7 tests for Australia, including 3 as captain. And Norm Potter, who was captain of Ipswich that year, also played 7 tests for Australia and a whopping 44 games for Queensland.
Wow.
Now, a few years earlier, he'd captained Queensland as the first ever win over New South Wales in the Interstate Series, so he's a legend anyway.
Yeah.
But in 1926, the inner city competition was for the Bulimba Cup, and it was between Ipswich, Toowoomba and Brisbane.
Correct, and only stopped in 1975 or something, I think?
Yeah, that's right. Like, it had 50 years of history.
Yeah.
And 1926 was right back at the start, or about it was the second year. Yeah. And unexpectedly, all 3 teams finished equal top. Now, the rules of the competition allowed for a final if 2 teams finished equal, but not 3. Yeah. So confusion reigned, Danny.
How do they do it?
The Queensland Rugby League stepped in and decided that a final series involving all 3 teams had to be played. Ipswich agreed. But cup holders Toowoomba refused to play, as did Brisbane, which was in a power struggle with the QRL at the time.
Typical Toowoomba.
Typical, that's right.
Yeah.
But the outcome was that Ipswich was awarded the Bulimba Cup for the first time without a final even being played. And so Norm Potter was captain for another famous victory. Yeah. And controversy reigned that threatened to tear the game apart.
Mate, that is unbelievable. What's the other story of a controversy of that?
Oh, yeah. Like I say, everyone thinks about rugby league and grand finals in 1926. But what about the Brisbane of Stedford in 1920?
What happened there?
Yeah, the famous Blackstone Ipswich Cambrian Choir was led by the conductor, the great Leonard Francis. And his greatest triumphs had come in 1908 and 1910 when the Cambrians twice won the Grand Championship of Australia. Now, right from the start of the 1920 Brisbane of Stedford, there's Brisbane again, the talking point among all the competitors and officials was a question of adjudications. Now, that means because for the first time there were actually 2 adjudicators who judged independently and their marks were averaged. So the results, Danny, sometimes just seemed like a toss of the coin. Now, the controversy raged for at least a couple of days. Some argued return to 1 judge. Others thought 2 was fair, while more said there should be 3 judges. Anyway, Ipswich's big rivals in the finals was the Brisbane Australs, who performed outstandingly well in the preliminary rounds. Right. But the champion Ipswich Singers were favoured to win still. Sadly, though, Danny, the controversy just overcame the emotion, and the system eventually went against Leonard Francis and his champion. So the outcome was the home of Brisbane Choir won, and the Blackstone Ipswich Cambrians had to settle for minor prize. The uproar that followed in the media 100 years ago, Danny, is palpable even to this day, as you can tell.
And they still exist?
My emotion right now.
No, you're very emotional. They still exist?
Well, there is still choirs, but of course the heyday of competitive singing was in the 1920s and 30s when there were at least 10 choirs, big choirs in the Brisbane Ipswich area. But yeah, the Cambrians, they still, there's still a proud Welsh singing tradition out there at Blackstone.
And I wonder where those trophies are from back in the early 1900s, because they used to have quality trophies those days. Wonder where they are.
And they were solid sterling silver always.
Yes.
They were beautiful trophies.
Yes. Hey, you just bring it to us. Controversies. There's another Harry H. Peacock's going to be on next week, causing more controversies. And how do we get what you do? You have a really good website. What is it?
Yeah, just go to historyouthere.com.
And he is out there finding us more good Ipswich history here on West Bremer Radio at 8:19.